Welcome to the Compassion Show, where leadership isn't soft, it's soul deep. I'm Nigel, founder of Compassionate Business. I'm a cancer survivor and now a workplace activist on a mission to end the era of toxic leadership and toxic cultures. So every week I sit down with courageous guests who have walked through fire, burnout, betrayal, breakdown, came back not just wiser, but more compassionate. So if you've ever felt like the way we lead is broken, you're not alone. So this isn't just a podcast, it's a rebellion. And today's guest is about to take us inside their own turning point. So let's get going. Everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Compassion Show. And this is From Broken to Unbreakable with Darren Regis-Williams on the power of recovery. And before I welcome Darren, I just want to give a little intro, because this is quite an amazing story. And it's going to be the context of how we could get on with this episode. So Darren was hit at 88 miles an hour that shattered his body. But he then rebuilt it, and he rebuilt his mindset to go along with it. And in this episode on the Compassion Show, Darren's going to share how that near-death crash reshaped his entire mission of life. He's now helping the over 40s recover from injury, reclaim their strength, and rise again with purpose. So we're going to go deep into recovery, resilience, aging, and a big one for me, masculine vulnerability, and why most post-injury support isn't built for real-life leaders today. We're juggling work and pain and maybe a bit of identity loss. So this is going to be a must-listen for anyone who's facing invincible battles physically or emotionally while trying to lead. So Darren, a huge welcome and thank you for joining us today. Oh, you are more than welcome, but I'm not going to make you rest easy because I have these quick-fire questions that I'm going to ask you, just so everyone can get to know a bit about you. And I haven't pre-warned you what they are, so here we go. Right, so whatever comes into your mind, worst physio advice you've ever been given. We'll come back to that one. That's a hard one. Have a think about it.
Don't worry about that side. That's not the issue. It's this side.
Okay, got it. What's your post-injury power song?
It is Diana Ross. I'm coming out.
Fabulous. That's great. Unbelievable. All right. You can ban one gym exercise forever. You can ban one gym exercise forever. What is it? What would it be? What would you ban? What was that one gym exercise you'd ban forever?
It would be the deadlift.
The deadlift. Oh, get rid of that. 100%. Yeah. Right. Last question. Knees, shoulders, back. Which is the drama queen of the body?
Ooh, the shoulder.
Shoulder.
The shoulder.
The drama queen of a shoulder. There we go.
Yeah.
Right, listen. Thanks, Darren. That was a bit of fun, but listen, let's get serious now. Let's get into it. Take us back to the crash. What happened and what went through your mind in the days that followed?
Well, I was chasing green lights down Fulham Road at 3:45 a.m. like I was playing a video game. And I hit Stamford Bridge at about 88 miles an hour and crashed into a fire gate. No one heard me crash. And I was broken in so many ways. I didn't even realize. I got up after I crashed. Didn't realize that I'd broken my leg in so many places and ended up just passing out, falling backwards. And I remember I couldn't breathe. So I took my helmet off and passed out. That was the last thing I remember about the crash. Going really fast, hitting this bridge at a really fast speed and thinking to myself, oh crap, there's a fire gate. I can't move, I can't steer, and I just hit it. And I woke up in hospital a week later. Thankfully, I was about 200 meters from Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, which is quite a good hospital in West London. I was broken, bruised. I'd broken all the bones in my leg, bruised my spine, crushed my lungs. That's why I couldn't breathe. Bruised my kidneys, broke a bone in my hand, shattered the ball in my right foot. Like, yeah. And I was a young man, you know, I was invincible. I thought I was Evel Knievel, Superman, invincible. And then I've woken up and that was not my reality. So this was, I think I was 25 years old when this happened. And I guess I had to come to the reality of not being able to move, not being as invincible as I thought I was. There was a lot of shame at this moment in time. So it was little simple things. Like when I woke up, a week later, I had to relieve myself. I had to go toilet, but I couldn't even get out of the bed to go to the toilet. So they brought around a little cardboard bowl for me to sit on in bed. Oh, that was the worst. And because I couldn't really move, I couldn't even wipe my own bum afterwards. And it was so soul destroying, being in that position, and really quite humbling. And I made a decision after that happened that I was not going to go toilet again until I could get up and go to the toilet myself, because that whole experience I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, you know? So yeah, so that was my first week, I guess, in hospital, waking up, that reality. And then there comes the just being in constant pain, not being able to move. Then I had people coming to visit me, like my family, and I didn't want to see them. So I didn't want to see me in this state. However, I was lonely and alone. And so I welcomed the visitation, but at the same time, I really didn't want it. I told some people not to come and visit me because I didn't want them to see me like that. Some people didn't visit me because they didn't want to see me like that. And I held a personal grudge that on my lowest moment in time, you didn't come to see me. It was a real mixed bag of emotions. And I think that only settled down once I made a decision. So just a bit of context for you. I crashed in July, and it was my son's 5th birthday in August, in 4 weeks' time, and we'd booked a nice holiday to Spain, to celebrate his birthday, and I didn't want to be the reason for him to have a bad birthday. So it was my absolute goal to get out of hospital and get on that plane to Spain within the next 4 weeks. And that was my driving force. So it wasn't necessarily, I don't think it wasn't nothing about me or what I was doing in my life, how I was being impacted. It was how was I going to impact my son? That was my driving force. And I'm thankful that I had him at an early age, and he was there to give me inspiration, which he's always done. I've always been inspired to do better, because I want to be a great leader and example for him. And I've always tried to live my life that way. And so, yeah, that's when the mission started. I was having conversations with the nutritionalist. And I said to her, little Irish lady, Mary, I goes, I need to get out of here, Mary. I goes, I need to get out of here. And she's like, so we need to get your protein up. And I was like, okay, they've got these little Ensure milkshakes, right? And you can I read the back. My eyesight was good back in those days. I could read the small small letters, right? And it said maximum 6 a day. And I was like, okay. So I said, Mary, I goes, these Ensures that are like protein shakes. I goes, you can have 6 a day, but you need to prescribe it. She said to me, Darren, I'll give you 5. I was like, okay, cool. And then she prescribed a full English breakfast every morning.
We all need a mayor in our lives.
Oh, Mary was a godsend. I'll never forget her name. I'll never forget her aura. It was just like she was like an angel as she walked onto that ward, and just gave my body what it needed to heal as quick as possible.
But she listened to you. She listened to what you wanted to do.
Yes.
You had an ambition. You had a date. You had a reason, and you were blessed by someone who listened with compassion and said, "Yeah, okay, let's make it happen."
Yeah, and I would also, it's part of my wisdom knowingness right now. That it's part of one of my frameworks for from my package as well. It's about once you make a decision, and you are truly authentic with that decision, the place where you're at, the place where you want to go, not the hows, not the whats, just the decision, then the universe tends to provide you with opportunities for you to walk that path in true authenticity with your decision.
100%. 100%.
Right. And so that was my first, because as a youngster, before my accident, it was all very much, fly by the seat of my pants, tomorrow's not guaranteed, we're going to have fun right now. And but it was going through that process, open my eyes. Once you make a decision, you get grounded in that decision, it's a truthful decision, and you're being authentic with that decision, the universe will provide you with opportunities to stand in that decision and move in that direction. So that was the first thing. And then it was a case of, before they could let me out of the hospital, I had to show that I could walk up and down 2 flights of stairs with crutches. That's all I had to do to get out. I just had to be able to walk, because I lived on the 2nd floor. So I had to show that I could be able to get in and out of the house. Not on a daily basis, just at least once. Just at least once.
I can imagine all the motivation going into that one moment.
I was fully committed. When the physiotherapist came in, I was fully committed to getting up and down those stairs with 2 crutches. And I did it. I didn't move again afterwards, but I was absolutely knackered, but I did it. And so in the hospital, you've got your visiting hours, right? And then there's this quiet time where you've got your own little community of all of us that are suffering, right? Yeah. Some of us suffer in silence. Some of us suffer we're a little bit more vocal about it. And there's a connection and a bond between all of us. And so that also taught me about human connection, right? So no matter how bad I've got it, there was a guy next door to me who was worse, right? So that was another lesson, that no matter how bad you've got it, someone else may have it slightly worse. So if you don't drown in your own, I guess, discomfort, right? You need to be able to find the blessing in your discomfort, not necessarily comparing your discomfort to someone else and saying, thank God mine is better. But
it's not a competition.
It's not a competition, right? But it gives you a different perspective, right? And some of those nights in the hospital ward, we'd have contraband going around from bed to bed. You get the little trolleys, the trolley tables where you put their food on and you can roll it on and off. So that would be going around from bed to bed with a little with contraband going around on it. It was very difficult when it had to go from one side of the room to the other. A couple of guys did let us down on
a couple of occasions. There's always a couple of people.
Always a couple of people. But yeah.
So listen, Yeah, sorry, carry on, mate. Because I want to ask you quite a question that you talked about. Obviously, because you had this immediate feeling of shame, which is sad. You got to feel that way because your body was broken, and then you gave yourself this opportunity to think, I've got a moment in time in the future where I can I've got a reason to get out. And then obviously, you talked about the suffering in silence, and so. I know jumping ahead a little bit, and apologize for that, but you talked about the suffering in silence, which I see an awful lot. And in the corporate world, in business leaders, I mean, I suffered in silence all the time, but my suffering came out as anger. My suffering came out as toxicity. All the things it manifested in different ways, but I was suffering like mad. So why is it, do you think, that business leaders suffer in silence, physically and emotionally? And why do you think so many of us just don't ask for help? If we have an injury, why don't we ask for help?
So, so I think so. I think it's got something to do with upbringing.
Mm-mm.
Is what I think is because I was brought up to just keep it moving. Um, there's not really a lot of space for your emotions and how you're feeling. Something needs to get done. It needs to get done. Get it done. No one's going to come in and save you. If you don't get it done, no one else is going to do it. So, you know, make sure your tie's on straight, your bottom's done up, your shirt's tucked in, you look presentable, and show up.
Mm.
Right? And that's generally how I've been brought up. And so I've historically I haven't been the great one to ask for help because I can just do it myself. And if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling not 100%, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, no one's coming to save me. No one wants to hear what I've got to say. No one really cares about how I'm feeling,
Mm.
right? So why waste the energy and effort of having a conversation? You just bury it down and bury it down and bury it down, and you keep on moving and keep on moving until you can't move no more.
Mm.
And it's the same like an injury. So here's a great analogy, right? So a few years ago, did my shoulder. It hurt a little bit, but it was enough for me to carry on doing things, right? So I didn't complain about it. I didn't go and see anyone about it. It was just a little niggle. I continued. So I carried on about my daily life. Every so often it hurt a little bit more. I just took a deep breath and continued. Gradually, as you get used to the pain, you get used to the pain. And then gradually the pain just gets more and more and more and more and more. And you just find yourself just finally just constantly trying to readjust, compensate for the pain, and your pain tolerance gets a little bit higher because you're dealing with it. And then it comes to the point where the shoulder decides that it is no longer going to function. You cannot open the door. You cannot lift up the duvet off you. You can't do anything. And it's at that moment
Yeah.
that it's too late. And I think that shoulder injury speaks to men, the idea of a man that I've always adhered to, which is you just suck it up and you just keep on going until you can't go any further. And that's not my ethos now. I'm a lot older and wiser, but I think that's exactly what it is. And I think I'm on a mission to show people that it's doesn't have to be that way.
Mm. Well,
You know?
let's talk about this mission. And by the way, did you get to your son's birthday? I'm sure everyone's dying to know.
Yeah,
Hey.
it was good. And because I had the accident, my partner at the time phoned ahead and I got carried onto the airplane. I got carried off the airplane, both sides, and we got a disabled room at the in Spain. And while I was there, I was able to practice walking on crutches and getting out of the wheelchair. And so, yeah, I was able to take a bath, in a disabled room. It was, I'm glad I made it, because it
Well,
wouldn't have been the same experience going home.
well, mate, I mean, all power to you for demonstrating the power of motivation and the power of giving someone else your blessing of compassion to your son. I mean, that was truly incredible. Yes, it was a selfish moment, but it was a beautiful moment. And so I'm so happy you were able to do that. I'm so happy you're here, number one. And most people hitting a wall at 88 miles an hour would use a different word than the word crap. As they're hitting a fire hydrant or a wall. So listen, you've turned your recovery into a method, Rejuvenate 360. So what's different about your approach? And where do you think, what are the traditional recovery models missing?
Okay, so Rejuvenate 360 was born out of my whole experience. So the whole experience, having the motorbike accident, being knocked over off my bicycle, riding through London, running around the kids and hurting my knee, going for a run, and after 2 weeks, my hip and my knee were giving way, so I couldn't run anymore. And this identity, all of these things were part of my identity. And the more that I couldn't do those things, my identity was slowly getting chipped away, and I was questioning, who am I without the wife? Who am I without the kids? Who am I without the job title? And I think I was about 43 years old, and I was just like, what's my purpose? What am I doing? Who am I? And so Rejuvenate 360 is built on that experience. And so Rejuvenate 360 is about taking a holistic approach to our life. And so it's about connection with people, ourselves, our loved ones, building a bit more of a community around us, so that we are humans, we thrive on connection, and sometimes being a man, we go quite insular, and we don't let our wives know in, we don't let our kids in, we don't let those at work in, we don't let anyone in. And so Rejuvenate 360 is about letting people in. In the first instance, it's about letting me in. It's about being honest with yourself and where you're at. And then it's about self, connection with self, connection with others. It's about food, of our relationship with food, good food, bad food. It's all just food in my opinion. It should be enjoyable. Then there's the exercise, which is quite important. It's doing the correct exercises for you. And it's also about sleep and stress management. And so what can you do to just, I've got a phrase that's called life in color. So before Rejuvenate 360 was born, it was called life in color. It was about just going out and just going into the world and seeing the life in color, right? The changing in, the changing of the seasons, the smell in the air, the sound of nature's music, the beauty that is all around us and we are part of. And so that's how it started. It's just like being an appreciation of our life and how we interact with nature, and an appreciation for nature, because we're all one. And then that turned into Rejuvenate 360. Like, how can I get more of this? How can I be the embodiment of nature? How can I be stronger in my body to show up for myself, to show up for my wife, to show up for my kids, to go and see nature and take a nice little walk and not feel like I'm dying before I've taken 100 steps, so that's Rejuvenate 360, whole holistic approach to life in color.
Which I absolutely love, and thank you. It's absolutely brilliant, because what you've been talking about is mindset, right? So
yes.
it's an absolutely completely different mindset. And the next question about it, I'm going to ask you, which is, for most of us, we need to have this kind of critical event in our life that refocuses our attention on how we think about masculinity, how we think about strength and vulnerability. For me, my crash was a toxic work culture that, yours was hitting a wall at 88 miles an hour. Very, very different. You were physically broken and emotionally broken. I was emotionally broken. That manifested itself into physical breakages, I guess. I've now got, as you know, I've got, 2 cancers that can't be treated, all that kind of stuff. But these moments of our life made us think. So how has your injury, it's a shame that we have to think we need an incident or a crash to make us rethink this. But how has your injury, changed your relationship with those things I just mentioned? Masculinity, strength, and the big one, vulnerability.
Yeah. So historically, vulnerability is a weakness, right? Showing your vulnerable side is a weakness. And strength is not having any vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I've come to the realization through I've got a really good wife, and she has helped me see more of me.
You've got a fantastic wife, not a really good one.
All right. She's fantastic. I've got a fantastic wife, and she sees me, and she calls me. She sees all of me, right? And she says it's okay to see the vulnerable sides of me. It's okay for me to be vulnerable. It's okay for me to let my guard down. It's okay for me to communicate how I'm feeling. It's okay for me to take time out for myself to work out how I'm feeling. And if I need to do anything if I need any practices or rituals that aid how I feel, well, then I need to go and do those. First of all, you need to identify those. So for me, strength is not about maintaining this hard facade all the time. Strength is about being comfortable with who you are. And in that, if there's a time for you to be vulnerable, you're not afraid of being vulnerable. Yes, you should be discerning in the situations where so for example, if you're in an environment that is not necessarily built to receive your vulnerability, well then you need to be able to discern that, but that also comes with a strength. Right? So being strong is about being vulnerable, knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, and putting yourself first.
You don't put yourself.
I
agree. If you don't put yourself first, you can't put anyone else first.
Yeah.
It sounds odd when I say, "Oh, you can't have 2 equal firsts." Well, that's all there is in life. There's no second. There's only 2 equal firsts. In anything, when you look at life in color, everything is first.
Yeah.
Everything. Because you talked about something there that was really interesting about, this vulnerability is not strong. This is what we think, business leaders, that's what we think, it's trend, vulnerability is weakness. And because, we as business leaders, typically, this is why we have such a broken corporate society and business cultures, is because we are addicted to performance in leadership, and if I show a little bit of vulnerability, then therefore my performance might be hindered. If my performance hindered, then guess what? I might be my overall team performance, my metrics might go down, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to do that. So we're absolutely addicted to performance in leadership. So how do we shift from power? So imagine, I'm a high performing leader. I've got all this pain. It could be emotional or it could be physical. You experienced that yourself. I've been through it. I know a lot of people who are going through it. but we don't do anything about it. So how do we shift from powering through the pain, both physical and emotional, to actually start to heal?
So my wife Erica does a lot of work on the emotional side of things, and I have witnessed it firsthand where I've been holding on to something emotional and it has shown up as a physical pain in my body. And as soon as I've been honest with what I'm feeling and have shared that, as in I've had that witnessed by someone close to me, as in my wife, when then that pain starts to subside.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one aspect. That's one aspect of it. And then I am a physical guy, and so my theory is pain in the body is a sign of weakness. You need to strengthen it. And so go to the gym and start doing some strength training. And through doing the strength training, you will strengthen that part of the body and the rest of your body. And then you'll also go through this process of strength training is quite mental as well. It's a physical activity, but it takes mental strength to just do one more, to just show up, to give yourself the nutrition that your body needs after you've done the workout. It's like so much of what you do in the gym is only sort of like 30%. The mind is the other 70%. And when it comes to leadership and power, I take all of my cues from nature. And I was sitting down contemplating the other day. I just want to share this contemplation with you. And it was I was contemplating the seed that has fallen from a tree, and it just falls into the ground. It has no desire. It has no desire other than to just be a seed. It sits in the ground doing nothing but just waiting. The environment that it is in then causes it to start to change. It doesn't fight the change, it just goes with the change. It turns into a little bud and it goes, oh, this is nice. The rain comes down and it's like, oh, this is great. It pops out, it sees the sun, it says, hi, sun. I'm just so thankful to be here. And as it starts to receive the nutrients and all the blessings that nature has bestowed on it, all it's doing is just being itself. It's not going out foraging. It's not going looking for this. It's not looking for the sun. It's not looking for the rain. It is just simply just being its true, authentic self. That's all it's got to do. And as it gets a bit bigger, it looks up to the tree that it fell from and it goes, oh, inspiration. You just look nice and big and strong. One day, I would love to be as big and strong as you. Right? And it just continues to just be its own individual plant, growing, just receiving everything that is around it. So for me, true leadership is about, well, I think good leadership should be about playing to people's strengths, seeing people, letting people turn up as their authentic selves, and bringing people's skill set together to build something amazing and fantastic, and not necessarily have this concept of, this is my idea, this is the way we're going to do it, and it should be done this way. I think there should be an opportunity for collaboration. And then I guess there's the stressful bit of, I guess the leaders have got objectives to meet. And so I do think that it then starts, that analogy about bringing the correct people in, bringing their teams in and having them work together, I think it should really start from the top. And I'm not there, as I don't know how you do that. But I think if you get people at the top to start focusing more on themselves and not letting their roles define who they are, then I think you start to see an impactful change.
Yeah. I could agree more on a couple of things I just want to talk about there. One of which you talked about the seed. And that to me is a beautiful analogy of self-compassion. It really is. And you just talked about that self-compassion in and I talk about self-compassion a lot in my book, but because it's that bit that's the most important element of our life, but it's the one we ignore the most because it goes back
Yes.
into, I don't want, self-compassion. That's a bit selfish, Nigel. I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? And it also goes into, in the leadership, that's where it's needed the most. So I think that's absolutely crucial. And, you talked about, who am I? Well, once you get self-compassion into your rhythm, into your daily activity, and you get, a bit deeper into, you start listening to a different voice, you'll start to understand who am I. Because when you talk to someone, you say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a director of marketing. No, that's a job title. That's not who you are. We
Yes.
shouldn't, we shouldn't even saying, who are you? Let's stop wearing these hats of, that describe us that we aren't, that don't describe what we really are, just a collective group of energy of called human beings, and we all are connected. But you describe self-compassion beautifully there. So listen, let's talk about the word compassion a lot, because you clearly demonstrate, you've got this in droves. So what does true compassion look like when somebody's body and identity are broken or feels broken?
So compassion. Well, if you are if your body is feeling, well, we're not all broken. Well, yeah, you can be broken, but you can literally. I I was gonna say you're not broken, right? No matter how broken you seem to be, you're not broken. And the compassion you need to have of yourself um is that um so I don't quite know how to explain it. I'm a story guy, right? So when I had my motorbike accident, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. 20 odd years later, yeah, a few years later, I look back on that and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life because it changed who I am, it changed my whole identity, and it changed my perspective on life. So from compassion, I guess compassion is understanding that no matter how bad it is right now, you're here for a reason, right? And if you're here for a reason, there is always, always, always something to be thankful for. And when you are in that lowest moment in your life and you can find something to be thankful for, that's where the true transformation begins.
Yeah,
Right? If you can
yeah,
find the appreciation in your lowest moments, and it's a lot easier said than done. Like I say it, but it's not an easy thing to do. And
mm,
so I guess the first thing I would say then is that you have to be compassionate with yourself and you have to own where you're at. You have to own it. And you should find someone, a group, your loved ones, that where you can voice, because I think there's a lot of power in actually communicating where you're at with someone. I think just getting it out
yeah,
is quite therapeutic and is the start of transformation. And so I provide a group space where I don't tell people that's what they need to do. I provide a safe space so that when they're ready to, they can do. And in the meantime, we're going to focus on something else, you know?
yeah. So you hit the wall at 88 miles an hour at age of 25. So I think my last question for you before we sum up here is, what would you say to 24-year-old Darren?
Um, well, 20, I would have said, yo, D, slow down.
Yeah, you might have said that on the day of the crash. But what would you have said before that?
Um, uh, so do you know what? So, I don't think I'd tell myself anything. So I'm the guy that won't read horoscopes. Because I don't want to be, I want to maintain the illusion that I'm in total control. And as far as I was aware, I was very happy with 24-year-old D, and I was very happy with where he'd taken me so far. And I am also really happy that he led me toward that crash, you know?
Yeah.
So I've got absolutely, I wouldn't change anything. I've got no regrets. And I wouldn't give him any hindsight. I might give him some lottery numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm into that. Yeah. Yeah.
But I just want to just touch on the point. Although I did crash at 25, I spent a lot of time. I was a young man, and so bouncing back and getting back to a health. I was playing football again. I was cycling 36 miles a day. I was doing all of that. But then I got older, and I just wasn't. Life got in the way. Being provider, being the provider, being the protector, working, coming home, not talking, all of that stuff did enter my life. And when I got into my 40s, I found that I was no longer that fit guy. I wasn't exercising anymore. Everything hurt. My shoulder hurt, my back hurt, my knee hurt, my ankle hurt. When I was walking up the stairs, because I'd stopped training my left leg, when I went to step up the step, it wouldn't lift as high, so I would kept tripping as I was going up, and so that it was at that moment where I was just like, where my identity. When I crashed at 25 years old, I was a young fit guy. I was not invincible, but I came back. I was strong. I was this new guy. I had metal in me now, so that made me, I was a man of steel, you know. And I was just like, although I knew I wasn't invincible, I was stronger, right? But as I said, rolled on 20 years, lack of activity, lots of muscle deterioration, who am I? All of that sort of stuff came into my life. And so, it was rebuilding. It was rebuilding from that, because little bit of knowledge, right? So my left leg is smaller than my right leg. I built them up nice and strong, but if I stop working out, my left leg deteriorates a lot quicker than my right leg, right? Just from all the damage. So years of inactivity, the left leg is letting me down just walking up the stairs. It's letting me down going for a run. It's letting me down, and then my body's overcompensating everywhere. So that is where I meet the over 40s, because I've pulled my back sneezing. I think I've done my chest coughing. I
know.
What is this? But then it's all about being compassionate with yourself, right? We're a lot older now, so we don't train like we used to. We train with intention and longevity and preventing injury. We don't lift. That's why the deadlift. You can cause yourself an injury, but it's not worth the risk. Like, let's minimize risk.
Yeah.
Minimize risk.
We do it in our business life, right? So why would we do it anywhere else?
Yeah, let's minimize the risk.
So listen, mate. So if you're over 40, and if you're listening to this and you're still feeling the weight of an injury, or maybe you've just got the silent grind of trying to keep it all together, it's clear that Down to Work isn't just about our bodies. It's about our whole life. Life in color, as he calls it, which is now Rejuvenate 360 method. And it isn't rehab as you probably know it. It's a blueprint. It's a real blueprint to rebuild strength, stability, and confidence on our terms through the help of Darren. So even if we're recovering from surgery, or in Darren's case, a crash, or in my sake, it could be a toxic crash that I had, let's ask ourselves this question, like Darren's left leg, where in our leadership are we limping and we're just calling it normal? Where's that cough that's putting at our chest? Because what Darren's teaching is this. It's a real powerful lesson. I think this is what I've taken away from this incredible conversation I've had with you, Darren, is that recovery isn't weakness. It's absolute wisdom. Absolute wisdom. So, so if today's episode, I'll put all your details in the chat, in the bio, in the description of this podcast. But I really want to thank you, because you and I got to know each other very recently, and your story was inspiring then, and it remains to be inspiring today. And I hope it inspires others, even if they don't reach out to you yet, because they should. But even if it's just the gift of awareness from your own experience, because there's so many techniques that are theory and very few that are experience-led. And I always believe, the best teachers come from experience, not theory. So, you have to live and breathe it before you can teach someone else properly. Otherwise, it's not really teaching someone. It's repeating, and repeating isn't great. So thank you for spending the time to be so open and share your vulnerability, and share your story. It's been absolutely incredible. So I'm really blessed that you took the time to come on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Nigel. And it's the same. I feel very thankful. Thank you for having me. And I feel truly blessed to have come for breakfast and meet you since that day. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be on this podcast and share my story with you. Thank you.
Yeah, but the only thing we didn't have that day was a Mary giving it her full English.
Well, I was a little bit disappointed when I turned up and there was no full English.
But next time, it's on me.
Next time. Okay.
All right, mate. Thank you, and stay blessed.
All right, you too. Cheers. Bye.